Hi, my name is Stephen Walther, and in this video, I'm going to blast through building an entire ASP.NET MVC application from start to finish. The goal here isn't to offer a lot of explanation. I just want to give you a quick overview of the process of building an MVC application, and I want to keep the whole process really short. So what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a basic database-driven application. We'll be creating a movie database application, and our movie database application will enable us to list records from a database, and it will allow us to insert new records in a database, and that's it. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to use Visual Studio 2008 to create my MVC application. So I'm going to start by going to File and New Project. Don't select New Website, select New Project. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick Visual C# as my programming language. I'm going to pick the web category over here on the left, and I'm going to pick ASP.NET MVC Web Application as my project template over here on the right. I'm going to name my new application Movie App. Click OK. And it's going to ask me if I want to create a test project. Now we're actually not going to create unit tests, but I always find it easier just to say yes here in case I need to create unit tests later on. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to click OK and create a separate unit test project. Now at this point, Visual Studio is creating two projects. It's creating our actual movie database application, but it's also creating that unit test project. So you'll see we have something called Movie App, and down here we have something called Movie App Tests. Now when Visual Studio first creates a new MVC application, it gives us a number of sample files by default. I want to start from scratch, so I'm going to erase those. So I'm going to go to my controllers folder, and I'm going to erase the home controller. I remove that. And I'm going to go to my views folder, and I'm going to remove the home folder. I've erased that. And down here in my unit tests, I'm going to go ahead and remove the unit tests for my home controller. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and build our application. I'm going to start by creating a new database. I'm going to create a SQL Express database. So I'm going to right-click on the App Data folder. I'm going to select Add, New Item. I'm going to select SQL Server Database, and I'm going to call my new click Add, and I have my new SQL Express database. Now I want to add a table into a database table named Movies. So I'm going to double-click on the Movies DB database. That's going to open up the Server Explorer window for me. I'm going to right-click on Tables, select Add New Table, and start with an ID column, an identity column. That'll be an integer column. I want to make sure that that's ID column, so auto number as I add new. So I'm going to expand identity specification, double click next to identity. This is now an identity column. Movie should have titles, so I'm going to add a title column. And movies director, so let's put in a director column. And finally, let's put in a date released column. Date time column, don't allow nulls. I'm going to click the floppy to save my, my new database table. I'm going to name it Movies. And now we have our necessary database objects. Now, it'll make life easier if we have some data to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on the new table that we just created, select Show Table Data. And I'm just going to add a couple of movies into my database. So I'm going to add Star Wars. Lucas was the director. I have no idea when it was released, so I'm just going to put in that was directed by Jackson, and again, I really don't know when that was released. Let's say that was released in 2001. All right, so now I have some data. Okay, so I have a database. The next step for me is I need some way of working with that database from my MVC application. So to do that, I'm going to take advantage of the MVC Framework to create some data model classes. So I'm going to go to my models folder, right-click on that. I'm going to select Add New Item. I'm going to select the data category, and I'm going to select ADO.NET Entity Data Model. Now you do need Service Pack 1 to use the MVC Framework. So you do need ASP.NET 3.5 Service Pack 1, or more generally the .NET Framework Service Pack 1 to use the ND framework. So I'm going to name my data model classes data model. Click Add. This opens up the ND Data Model Wizard. I want to generate my classes from the database. I'm going to pick my MoviesDB database. If that doesn't show up, you can pick it from the drop-down list. Notice the name is going to create a object context class called MoviesDB Entities. Click Next. This allows me to pick the database tables that I want to create model classes for. I only have one table called Movies, so I'll select that. I'm going to change the namespace to Models and click Finish. At this point, the Entity Framework Designer opens up, and it shows the new Movies classes that we created. Now, this is a C# class the Entity Framework has generated for us. It represents the movie database table. Now, notice it's called Movies. This is going to represent a particular row from the Movies database table. So I want to change this name. I'm going to click on it and change this name to Movie. And that way, it makes more sense because it represents a particular movie. All right, so now we've created our model class. If you look over here in the Solution Explorer, now our models folder has a data model